Welcome to Logistics Unplugged. My name is Brian Blaylock, and I'm your host, and I'm happy to jump in today to all things logistics. So let's pull back the curtain, take a look under the hood, and have a great discussion. And I'm super excited today to have a ghost from the past coming in to join me today. I've got the Vice President of Sales from Blue Grace Logistics here, Chris Capillas. Chris, thank you so much. Welcome finally.
Appreciate it, Brian. Been waiting for this invite.
Absolutely. Well, and for those of you who don't know why I'm saying that, over the last 10 years, I've done about a bazillion webinars for the company, and Chris has been on about 10 bazillion of those bazillion, if I did that math backwards, and we always have a great discussion. I always learn something, and I think everyone that's listening always learns something too. So, Chris, about time, and thanks for being here.
Absolutely, man. Really happy to be here.
So the topic today is managed logistics, how companies can execute a more professional supply chain and organize things a little bit better. And I know that that is the world that you live in, and I want to talk a little bit about that. And I want you to start by just defining what that means, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, no. Transportation is typically an underfunded and under-resourced function of a business, right? So there's such a major impact, though, on profitability, on your customer's experience, and typically it's a top cost center for shippers. So when you compare like managed transportation to freight brokerage, managed transportation is just finding a way to solve business problems through a transportation solution, right? So,
absolutely.
You know, we're not so focused on the capacity or, you know, what truck is showing up to move the load. It's more about helping plan, execute, and manage the transaction itself. Because your business needs automation and process efficiency. Your business needs centralized integrity and access to data. And your business needs ways to always drive and find ways to continuously improve. So we try to focus more on the business side of transportation rather than the actual movement or the capacity that typical brokers are solving for.
Yeah, I love that. And part of that magic word you snuck in there with data is kind of the center of everything. We talk about it all the time. Businesses can know all of these things about themselves, what it costs to operate the business, from a rent or lease or own of a building to what you pay the employees. But everything you sell and everything you buy goes through logistics, and that tells the story for your business, right?
100%. And people really underestimate the amount of data that lives in transportation. And you know how detailed the information typically is that you're putting on a bill of lading, and it can turn into really powerful reporting for the organization.
100%. And one of the things that you do, Chris, or your teams do with that information is you figure out ways to optimize the experience for the shipper. And I'm going to just kind of use that to transition us in a little bit. Talk to us about what optimization means in our world and why that is so important.
The simplest definition is shipping your orders in the right way,
right?
Whatever that means to your business. So that could be doing mode conversion. Instead of shipping an LTL shipment, I want to ship a partial truckload or a multi-stop truckload. Mm-hmm. It could mean executing strategies like pool distribution or zone skipping. So it's really, am I shipping the orders the right way within my strategy? And optimization just can mean so many things to so many different shippers.
100%. And Chris, I'm going to ask you to back up a half a hair, because we actually have a few people that listen to us that don't know as much about logistics as a few of us do here, and most of us don't know as much as you do. So I'm going to ask you to back up and talk a little bit about pool distribution and talk a little bit about zone skipping, because those are two very key things.
Yeah, very, very similar strategies. The idea is if I have freight or orders going a long distance, I don't want to use parcel or LTL to ship that long distance. I can actually control the line haul on a truckload, drive down my cost per unit or cost per item for the long haul, and then use final mile delivery to get it to my end users or my customers. You have to have a lot of density in order for it to work, but typically you're reducing claims, typically having faster lead times to your customers, and it's a great way to kind of control costs in locations that maybe you don't have a big enough footprint in as well.
Okay, makes sense. And in that optimization vein, I know some of the biggest headaches that you see come from companies that have difficulty in optimizing those supply chains. So I don't want to ask you for the horror story, but let's hear a little bit about supply chain gone wrong in the vein of optimization.
Yeah, like I started, transportation is usually underfunded and under-resourced.
Yeah.
So you'll see transportation managers trying to plan these things on Excel spreadsheets or trying to look at paper packing slips and consolidate orders that way. The whole idea is to understand a shipper's lead time. What's their time from when the order is placed, not to when they have to ship it, to their customer's expectation of delivery.
Yes.
You start to understand, like, hey, maybe you have 24 hours, maybe you have 72 hours. There's ways within your time frame, whatever that is, to optimize orders. And I'll give you a great instance of a client we work with that very manual processes. They had multiple systems, multiple platforms. They had a shipping manager who was doing a good job of catching some of the low-hanging fruit, but she couldn't capture everything.
Right.
So by just looking at like a simple optimization that says, if I'm shipping to the same customer on the same day, it should be one shipment.
Absolutely.
Not a parcel shipment and an LTL shipment and then maybe another parcel shipment. Just if it's going from the same origin to the same destination on the same day, one shipment.
Yeah.
Seems rudimentary, but it's really hard for a lot of companies to manage that without systems or good efficient processes. So when we looked at that, I mean, you're talking 8.5% savings on their total transportation spend by just saying, don't ship multiple shipments on the same day to the same customer.
Yeah.
Now you start to expand those things, right? So once it proves out and someone's seeing success, then you can start to look at, okay, well, what if I waited 24 hours? What if I waited 48 hours? And you can really start figuring out what's the optimal strategy for your business, because you're selling to your customers and you want your customer experience to be whatever it may be. There's ways within transportation to improve customer experience while also controlling and managing costs more effectively.
I couldn't agree with you more. And when you're talking about optimization, you're talking about the need to have technology that lets parts of the business units communicate with each other, right? Lets you gather the information. And that's a good segue into what my next question was going to be anyway, Chris. Talk to me a little bit about the role that technology can have in this industry, not just for optimization, but for all the other pieces to bolt this thing together that we call a supply chain.
The most important thing I think technology brings to a business from a transportation perspective is the centralization of your data. Most companies are using multiple providers, and even if they're using a provider, that provider might not have their own TMS, so they might use another company for audit. Typically, just transportation data in general is scattered.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing tech can do for your business is centralize your data. Once you have that data and has some integrity, you can start to measure and identify opportunities for change. It's the old adage, you can't fix what you can't measure.
100%.
And there's a lot of platforms out there that will help you capture really good data. The ability to then create a strategy within your systems and not have to rely on tribal knowledge or your people on your dock making those decisions is another great use of technology. But it doesn't solve everything. We're still in an industry of people and trucks. So, the idea is can you eliminate the manual processes someone on your dock has to do so they can focus on the really vital and important pieces, of that process.
Love that. I love seeing the people that build something,
Mm-hmm.
right? And let the folks that move things. Right. And having the technology to tie those concepts and ideas together. And you and I were just joking before we started here today about shippers that might have products that have 10 different verticals and they're coming out of the same warehouse. You got 10 people selling them, nobody communicating.
Yeah.
There has to be somewhere where that information lives.
100%. That's the best is when you go, hey, what's your PO or sales order to BOL ratio? It's 1-to-1. Well, that's a problem.
That's a problem. That is a definite problem. And I know you've had circumstances where you've met shippers who've maybe worked with multiple providers looking for the best possibility for rates, best possibility for assistance for a particular lane, and no consolidation of information. Let's talk about circumstances where you've seen where data and communication can take that process and make it better.
Yeah, we had a client that had 10 distribution centers across the country. 2 were main DCs that they brought all their inbound into, and then they distributed through transfers to the other 8. They grew by acquisition, and a lot of their DCs fulfilled orders because a sales rep was allocated to that DC or warehouse, not because it was the best
Right.
facility to ship from. They couldn't allocate expense back to the rep unless it's shipped from that DC. So
Makes no sense.
you're telling me. You'd be shocked. My big thing, I tell my reps all the time, you can't assume anything. You got to go in with an open mind, ask questions, be curious.
Try not to laugh. Right?
It's hard sometimes. So we did a study for them. We call it DC optimization. Are you shipping from the right facility in layman's terms, right? And we identified is that they were basically sending transfer trucks past the customers they were supposed to ship to,
Oh, good grief.
unloading it, then shipping it back out from a DC. So you think about all the wasted miles.
Yeah.
And if your company cares anything about emissions,
Yeah.
that strategy alone is going to save you a ton of CO2 emissions.
100%.
The other thing you start to look is service time to your customer. So their average lead time from order to delivery was 2.5 days. But most of that was because they had to transfer a truck to a DC and then do the outbound LTL. So there was a little over $750,000 in cost reduction on limiting transfers, because instead of having to do one a day to all these facilities, they were able to do 2 a week. Then they were able to cut their lead time for their customers and actually have a improved customer experience by getting the freight quicker to that end user. So they couldn't do this because they were limited on technology on the front end of picking the right DC, because it was always allocated to where the sales rep was from. They didn't have the system to go execute that model because they couldn't do any GL coding or cost allocation on the back end. And lastly, because they were decentralized prior, they didn't have one centralized system to say, wow, this doesn't look good. We do these DC optimizations and it looks like my 5-year-old's coloring on a crayon on a map. It's wild.
Yep.
And when you just look at it and people can see that data and visualize it, it makes change a lot easier. It makes selling change to your board or to your executive team a lot easier. And if you have good data that has integrity, you have good access to it, you can really drive a lot of positive change to the business. It doesn't always have to come down to, can I beat my broker up? Can I beat my carrier up on the rate? Sometimes it's you got to look in the mirror and go, what can I as a shipper do differently to have a more optimal, supply chain network?
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, we always want to do the part that lives in the shipper provider, logistics provider world to try to show where we can help. But you're right. So much of that just lives within their control, and there has to be a decision made to put that type of control around it. And technology is a good place to start those decisions. Now, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball, Chris. We talked about how optimization fits in, how technology fits in, and we're talking a lot about logistics, about moving the product from point A to point B. But I know that you, more than most people that I've spoken to in the past, understand when all of that is said and done, and then you've collected data. Talk about some of the business decisions that can be made better from what you learn from that great capture of data.
The number one thing we see, we call it profit leakage. I'm shipping to a customer, and I don't know their full accessorial profile. So on the front end, I haven't built in an accessorial matrix for them. So I get charged a liftgated delivery, a residential, a notify, whatever it may be. And that's just sunken cost for the shipper.
Yeah.
And having visibility of this, you can start building it into your costing models. You can start looking at, most companies have a free freight program or a minimum order quantity program. And they kind of just lick their finger, put it in the air and go, yeah, this sounds about right.
Best. Yeah.
Use the data. The data will show you. I mean, I literally just left a proposal where they had their largest bucket of spend was on shipments under 500 pounds, and their cost per pound was 45 cents. Their next bucket, 500 to 1,000 pounds, was 32 cents.
Seems pretty simple, doesn't it?
Well, and then you start going, okay, well, what's a minimum order quantity? Well, it's $1,500 an order. What does that look like from a shipments perspective? Well, we don't really know. So we start tying in freight as a percentage of sale, and we go, your number that you created 10 years ago, you're losing money on your free freight program.
Yeah.
You're losing money on your minimum order quantities. And, you start to look at that data, and, if you're thinking about from a broker perspective, they're not helping solve that problem. They're helping you solve a capacity problem, which is a real problem. And that's why brokers have been so successful. They help you source the right capacity. They're there when you need them. They'll answer the phone at 3 a.m. on Saturday when you need that expedite. But they're not looking internally at where are you leaking profit from bad processes or bad uses of data. So we really want to focus on that side. And I would recommend anybody who is managing transportation, runs a business, or is even a part of a business, start asking questions internally about, what kind of data can you pull out of your transportation department? What kind of data do you see from profitability or order patterns, order velocity? There's so much powerful data in transportation, and most companies just miss the boat because they don't have the right resources or systems set up to capture it.
So true. Such great points. And I think those points live in both directions of the business, right? What we sell and what we buy.
Yeah.
And Chris, you've talked to me before about what the purchasing groups can learn when they're trying to receive inbound freight. So many people look at, I pay X number of dollars a pound for cotton or for whatever it is. Do you really? I mean, talk to me about understanding that true landed cost of a commodity.
That's a great one to bring up, because most companies have a hard time allocating freight expense properly. So you'll talk to companies and say, okay, well, what GL or where do you allocate freight expense? It's like, well, I just have a freight bucket.
Yep.
Well, is it inbound? Is it outbound? Is it transfers? Was it marketing? Did you send it to a trade show? Is it a sample? What are these orders? How are you identifying where you're spending your money? And we have a great customer that's been with us for a very long time. And their CEO in our first QBR was like, "This data is great. I can't believe you can get it down to the case level. Is there any way I could look at a cost per cookie?"
Cost per cookie. I love it.
And our one of the operations managers at the time looked at me and he goes, "Yeah, we can do that." And I had no idea if we could or not. And he spent the next
Step
week.
on his toe when he said that?
He spent the next week going through all the data with them. They had to share one extra piece of information with us, and we were able to actually drill theirs down to a cost per cookie. And it's just incredible when you can capture the right data, what you can do with it. And that's just such a unique example. I always like telling that story.
I love it, and you know what? I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna play C-suite roulette with you a little bit, Chris, because you just brought up the CFO and understanding that on landed cost. But I'm a firm believer that there's a piece of logistics information, what you can capture and learn from your supply chain that can help any of the C-suite, any of those units. So let's do a couple of different ones. You did CFO. Let's add Chief Marketing Officer. What can marketing learn from logistics?
Marketing is really concerned about the customer's experience,
Yeah.
the brand, how you're viewed in the market. So if you think about lead times, if you think about, is my freight arriving damage-free? Can I drive promotions based on order sizes or order
Love
patterns? So that's what I think about when I think of the marketing side of the business.
I love it. I knew you wouldn't fail me on that, so I don't feel bad at all about sneaking that one out at your last.
I love
minute.
this.
So I'm gonna give you a teaser that I'm gonna let you think about for about 30 seconds before I ask you the last question on today's podcast, and then we're gonna bring up the fun stuff at the end. Since you're so tardy to the party here, and since we've done so much of this in the past, I'm going to do a speed round with you of all the questions that I've asked all of our guests for fun on the rest of these podcasts.
Oh, boy.
So I'm going to need from you your top trucking song. I don't care if it's a song that mentions trucking or just one that you want to have on the road when you're driving the truck.
Yeah.
I want your best trucking movie and or TV show or something related to trucking and or movies. And since you missed our whole summertime series on shipping, I want your favorite summertime tune, and then we're going to throw something on the grill with your favorite item to throw on the grill. So piece of cake, I'll give you a few seconds to think about that, but I'm going to clog your brain while you're thinking, and I'm going to bring the last question on today's session up, which is, what should a business look for when they're trying to decide what type of managed logistics partner they want to work with?
First, I would say, do they have the systems needed to support your business? Not everybody needs optimization. Not everybody needs full-fledged automation from a TMS perspective. So do they have the systems that your business needs to be efficient and automated? I would lean in on those systems proprietary, because then they can usually customize some level of it to your business. The next is have them prove a couple things. Prove the access and the integrity to data. How do they help you use it? How do they help you visualize it? Do they help you tell a story with it? Is it all on you? What can they do with data to help your business? And the last thing is proof. Have they done it? Have they had someone similar to your business model? Doesn't have to be the same industry. Similar challenges, similar issues. Where's the proof? Show me the story, show me the data, show me the proof on what you've solved. I said those are probably the top three things I would look for if I was on the shipper side, looking for a partner to help manage my freight.
I love it. You gave everybody something good to think about today, and as always, you give me some good things to think about, and always teach me a few things along the way. So now it's the moment of truth, Chris. We're going to start speed round here. I'm going to give you about 20 seconds on the clock. Favorite trucking song?
The Loadout, Jackson Brown.
Ah, that's a new one. I hadn't had that one yet. All right, good job. All right, trucking movie or show?
I'm going to go with Transformers. I played with them as a kid. Optimus Prime, big semi truck.
That is optimization at its best.
That's my guy right there. So I'm going to go with Transformers.
All right, I'll take that. All right, not bad. And then summertime tune.
This one is top of mind because my wife and I just went to the Hollywood Bowl to see him a couple weeks ago. But Tyler Childers, White House Road. That's a jam.
I'm going to look that up now. That
Barbecue,
might
car ride, beach. That's a jam.
I'm going to have to look that up right now. And then finally, what's your favorite thing to throw on the grill?
So I'm going to give you two answers.
Okay.
If I'm barbecuing with a bunch of people, it's tri-tip on the smoker.
Tri-tip, okay.
Easy, delicious, But if I'm cooking it for myself and I make this for myself every year on my birthday, I get a tomahawk. I smoke it until it's about 100, 115 degrees internal. And then I throw it on the grill for a reverse sear, get a nice char on it. That's my go-to.
I think I might have picked the right person for that last question. Sounds like this isn't your first barbecue rodeo.
I've been drooling all day waiting to answer this question. So this is good.
I love it. And bonus question, who's your favorite bald-headed podcast host?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It better not be that tough.
Yeah, Brian Blaylock.
I love it. Hey, folks, that is a wrap. I can't tell you how much I was looking forward to this one today. Chris, long time coming. Look forward to doing many more. Thank you for being here. Listeners, thank you as usual. We'll see you next Tuesday.